Hi everyone, Stephen follows instructions again, and we're just going to do a quick little look at this Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Docker. I'm writing a post on it in OL Daily, and so I just want to review it. I already have Docker installed on my computer, so I don't need to go through the installation, but I do want to cover this. There's some things that come up that are interesting. I want to put it to a video. So there's a quick overview as to what Docker is, and it's a really good overview, and I like this approach. You begin with a Docker file, which is a file, a text file that you create. That's used to build a Docker image, which is a big piece of code, and then if you run that code, you create what's called a Docker container, which is, as he says, a lightweight, standalone, and executable software package that includes everything you need to run your application. And that's why it's so cool. You don't really need to worry about configuring your whole computer. You just configure the Docker container and you can run any software you want. Now, like I said, I've already installed Docker, but basically it's pretty easy to install. We'll accept the cookies, right? Could be easier. Discover Docker, build class, sign in. It's not as easy as I would have thought from that URL. So let's scroll down. Okay, well, we don't even have the right link to download and install Docker. That's a kind of a problem. So Docker desktop basically is where we want to go. I know that, but I guess not everybody would. So you'd click download for Windows, run the installer, and Docker is installed. So might as well run the installer. What could go wrong, even though I already have it installed? Let's see. Clicked on it, something should start happening. Yeah, something's happening. I can see the little hourglass. And here we go. So it's installing. Well, it's going to update, replace your current version 4.19 with this new one 4.31. Sure, why not? Again, how could that be bad? So no reason not to do that. So stopping VM. I didn't know I had a VM running. Following up. Interesting. I didn't know it was running even. I guess it started up and is just running in the background. Worth knowing. That if you install Docker, it'll be sitting there running in the background. I guess it kind of has to for the command line to work. Okay, so it's doing its thing. So we just wait for it to do its thing. So I use Windows. Your installation procedure on Linux or on Apple will be a bit different. If you use Apple, I don't care. If you use Linux, you can probably handle it. I know that's kind of not nice, but I'm just waiting for this to install. It's taking a fairly long time to unpack all this stuff. Oh, Mark Corbett Wilson is saying my sound has been low on the last couple of videos. Well, that's worth knowing. Okay, I've cranked it up a bit. Mark, how's that? If you can let me know. I didn't even announce that I was doing this live. Mark just detected that I was doing it, I guess. Much better. Okay, sorry about that. Well, that helps then. So we're still waiting for it to unpack all the files here. There we go. Now we're installing Surfing YouTube. Okay. It's nice to actually have a viewer as I'm doing one of these live videos. Usually I have 0 people watching as I'm doing them. So alright, so okay, I've installed Docker, and there's different ways I could tell I've installed Docker. It's not actually going to tell me it's installed, but if I look here in my start menu, you can see it's recently installed. And similarly, if I opened up Windows PowerShell and typed Docker, right, it gives me Docker instructions, right? So, okay, let's go back to the ultimate guide, to the ultimate beginner's guide to Docker. So we've installed Docker. Okay, so Docker basics. Right, let me just reload this page because I made a change to it and it came out a bit differently. There we go. Got to be kind of careful. It looks like this, right? It's in this kind of window thingy, and it covers over this header thing covers over the first line. So there's the full file. So, okay, I know this application is quite simple, but it is perfect to understand how Docker works. Okay, so there it is. When setting up this application, the first thing we need to know is that it runs on Python. How would we know that looking at the application? Well, we wouldn't, right? But over time, this is so annoying. And there, oh, that thing is still there. Okay. So it's that NumPy tells me that it's Python. But, you know, you just kind of have to intuit it, I guess. But, I mean, any application you run is going to run on something. Okay, so the basic image is Python, and then there's a dependency, NumPy. So it says import NumPy. That's how we know that this is a dependency now. This is information we're going to get outside that code, I guess. And it should be clear in these instructions that that's what's happening. Okay, even though it is not necessary, it is good practice to always have a requirements text with all the libraries that our script requires. In this case, we would only add the NumPy library. This is what I call a blocker. If you don't know what you're doing here, and even I'm a little totally uncertain, you don't know exactly what you're doing. So, okay, this is a problem. You know, like what goes in, do I find NumPy library, copy it, paste it into requirements text, for example? No, I wouldn't do that. But you need to know that you wouldn't do that. And this instruction doesn't tell you. All right, so let's define the Docker file. So, it's important to understand the structure of application. Typically, I place the Docker at the same level as my main script and the requirements text.file. So, what this tells me is I have 3 files, none of which has really been clearly defined. But let's set that up. So I'm going to create a directory. I do all my code projects in code projects. So I'm going to make a new directory, new folder. Okay, I'll just call it NumPy for lack of anything else. All right, and then so I've done that, and now I'll go into VS Studio Code and open a folder. So that's this here. So the folder is in code projects, and here it is, NumPy. And I kind of need to know all of this already before, you know, in order to make these instructions work, but I do know this, so it's kind of helpful. Okay, so I know I'm going to need 3 files. And what I can infer, and I have to infer it, is that this is one of them. I don't know what it's called yet. In fact, he doesn't tell me what it's called at all. I have to find it here in this code. It's called name.py. He should name it up here, but he didn't. Fortunately, I know that this is what I should do. So I'll copy that. I'll create a new file called name.py. So here we go. Right here, oops. New file. main.py, and now I'm editing it, and it's probably going to contain all of this. Can I just copy this? Copy, okay. Copied to the clipboard, and now I'll just paste that in here. So there's the file that we were working on. I'll put another, okay. The thing I don't like about Python, and I'll never stop saying this, notice how there's no punctuation. The lines, the line feed and the spacing is your syntax. And boy, that really makes life trickier. Anyhow, I'll save that. Okay, the second file we know should be requirements.txt because he's named it a couple of times. So, requirements.txt. Now, what goes in that? That's the thing that he doesn't tell us. All he says is requirement.txt with all the libraries that our script requires. Okay, a library is a dependency, or a dependency is to a library. Again, unclear if you're a ranked beginner. Control-C, copy. So, I think this is what I do. I think I put this in here and I put them each on a separate line. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong about that. I honestly don't know. This is a real thing. But we'll try that and see if it works, and if it doesn't work, we'll try to fix it. Okay, the third thing, to define a Docker file. Now again, okay, you notice this is capitalized. The reason why this is capitalized is this is the name of the file. Okay, he doesn't tell us create a file called Docker file. It should be clear about that. This is, again, Ultimate Beginner's Guide. Yeah. So, we'll come back. Right, and so I'll make the third file. Create file, and it's called Docker file. Alright. And now again, I'm going to want to copy this. We'll copy it, and we'll paste that into the file. Okay. So, and he says, okay, from Python. Python is, so what's going to happen is this Docker file will contact Docker. It will get from the Python repository something called 3.9 Slim. That's the name of the image that we will use to start with. We'll define a working directory called /app. Then we'll copy these other two files that we have in the same directory as our Docker file into the current working directory, which is /app. Then we're going to run something in our image. We're going to basically we're going to run pip, which is the Python installation program. I don't know what it stands for, pip, but that's what it is. No cache dir -r. Don't know what those mean. Don't care. Requirements.txt. I'm not a Python person. That's why I don't know what those mean, and that's why I don't care. And then entry point. So this is what should happen when you start up the container to run it. Okay, it should run Python, and specifically the script main.py. Okay, so that's what's happening here. All right, no problem. He explains this, right? The line specifies the base image, in this case Python 3.9. True, not exactly true, but true enough, right? This adds the main py file to the container. It also adds the requirements file to the container, sort of. Well, it does. It puts it in the container. Run pip install requests. Again, this installs the requests. No, this installs the requirements. He's got a typo here. Requests instead of requirements. in an entry point, the command runs the application. Okay, so each line in a Docker file represents a layer, and to optimize processing, Docker caches layers that remain unchanged. Okay, we didn't need that, but whatever. So this way Docker can reuse these cache layers, speeding the build process. So what that means is, right, it's going to download this when it runs the first time. The second time, it's already downloaded this. It's already downloaded this. It's not going to do it again, and so on. Right? Okay. Step 2: running and building Docker, or building and running Docker images. So this is a 2-step process, and yeah, you have to do both. So once you have it, you can run your Docker image by executing the following command in your terminal. So first of all, let's copy the command. A couple ways I could do this. I could just open a terminal, right? And notice I'm right in, if I do this in VS Code, I'm right in the right directory. Or I could open PowerShell, or terminal even, and run it from there, but I would have to move to the correct directory. So I'll just run it straight right in VS Code. This is one of the real advantages of VS Code, is that you can do this. Oh, I better save the Docker file. This little dot indicates that I haven't saved it yet, so let's save it. Alright, so now let's run that command. Docker build t app name. So that it's going to look for a Docker file in this directory. And I don't know, oh, app name is just the app name. I could call it anything, I suppose. Dot. Error during connect. This may indicate that the Docker daemon is not running. Okay. Isn't that interesting? Docker. Seems to be running. Docker. Docker version. It says it is running, so let's try it again. Docker build. Error during connect. The system cannot find the file specified. I don't know what's going on here. I followed the instructions to the letter. I really did, even if I didn't have to. So, and this should work, really. Let's try it in PowerShell and see if we get a different result. So here's PowerShell. CDE code projects. That's all my code projects. CD. Oh, I wonder, no, I don't think so. Anyhow, what was the name of this thing? NumPy, right? Yeah. NumPy. Here's my 3 files. I'll try to run my Docker file. Docker build. Nope. The system cannot find the files. Error during connect. Okay. Isn't that a puzzle? Let's try clicking on Docker and making it run. Okay, so I've clicked on Docker, starting the Docker engine. Alright. This is kind of an important step if this is what was needed. Alright. Now it's clearly running. Let's try it again. that's all that was needed. You have to start up Docker. Does he actually say this? No. So this is one of these things, right? I think in Linux you probably wouldn't have to start it up, but in Windows you do. I think that might be one of these things. So where am I running this now? Here in PowerShell. Okay. Okay, so looks like it's worked. So we'll come back here. I could also do it. It'll probably also work now in VS Code. Let's just do this. See it now. It doesn't even have to download the stuff anymore because it did it previously. Okay, what's next in the instruction? Running the Docker container. Docker run app name. Okay. I don't know if we called it app name, but I think we might have. Yeah, we called it app name. Not the best app name in the world, so let's run it. And okay, enter a number. Yeah. Right. So it wants to run sort of interactively. Enter a number to run the square root, but if I enter 4, nothing's going to happen because it didn't stop. So number equals float input. See, okay, so it wants the input. So it's running, it ran, couldn't, right, end of file error when reading a line. So it is, so this application, right, does work, but float input, right? So it's looking for the input. I don't know what the float does there, but it should stop and wait for input, but it didn't stop and wait for input. I wonder if it works differently in terminal. Probably not, or in PowerShell. Let's try it again. Docker run app name. Yeah, same thing, right? It's just blasting past the input that it requires. So that's not the most impressive thing in the world. Maybe for Windows, or maybe running it out of a Docker file or whatever, you have to do something else. Okay. Oh, T tags the image with the name my Python app. But it doesn't, right? It says -t app name. Here we have -t my Python app. So he changed the name. Okay, it's a square root calculator. Docker run app name, which is our app name. Okay. Although the necessary libraries are not installed here. Yeah, you can still run it in the Docker container. It just runs badly. And that's it. So it's not bad, this set of basic instruction, but I wouldn't inflict it on an ultimate beginner because there's too much stuff that's just weird, especially the script that doesn't actually produce any results. So it's not a total fail, which makes it better than most things I've run under Stephen Follows Instructions, but it's not exactly a pass either. So I'm going to end this video here. Don't know if Mark, you're still with me. Oh, I got 2 people with me now. How about that? I feel famous. But I'm going to end this video now. And yeah, Mark was still with me, and I've lost one of the people. And that's it for this episode of Stephen Follows Instructions. Thanks for being here.